Days ago, when I was lying in my bed thinking what should I read for my topic, I almost revealed my whole life. I asked my roommate laying on the nest bed, "Where did you go after school in your childhood?" She responded without a second, "In my grandparents' home, but in the afternoon I would go home to wait for my mom." "Then about your father?" She thought for a while and said, "Well, about my father, she would come back in our term usually, but it would come back in the midnight if had a social engagement. And that is the common status of the urban children, but not the rural children in our subconsciousness. They really exist. Actually, 70% of the urban left behind children were taken care by their grandchildren. However, these accompanies will cause big troubles that the grandparents do not care much about their grandchildren's grades and have no ability to help them. They will also have outdated ethical thoughts, which trap the children to adapt their new society. Quarrels often happen frequently. Children will be blamed for no reason because that's how the society morality works. Children will feel unfair and both detest the parents and the grandparents. Let their personality go through the extreme. I'm not just appealing to me, but for the children who suffer from loneliness. Less time for self, more time for your child. My parents was me until the age of the primary school, when my father thought I should better care to get better grades. Thus, she decided to take me near her to take a good education. At that time, my mother and I started to realize that what means a family. Unfortunately, my father was disappeared for the whole time. I could not even recognize him when he came back from his construction site. He was a stranger for me before he began to settle down with us. When he tried to participate in our enjoyable time, he was refused by me because of his missing in the family. I was irritated and scolded all the tiny mistakes he made in the journal. It's very normal to see this happen in daily life, but you had a bitter quarrel in my grade 9. When I was looking for my mother to ask for help in order to release pressure, he said a sentence that I cannot forget forever. "You should be independent, not just seeking your mother like a child." Actually, I have to acknowledge that he's right. But I was full of rage and sadness at that time. In order that I just wanted to shout out, "How dare are you deal with me? Who cares about you?" I finally found that the facade of the friendliness between me and my father was broken in my heart. He just interfered at the wrong time using wrong way to crush my heart. That is what a book called My Hefei Friend said. The beginning of the adolescence and the end of the manhood. After that happened, I was full of regret because I didn't not really mean to hurt my father or to generate the cracks between my family, but it was occurred spontaneously in my deep heart. After graduated from journal, I finally found that the kindness and merciful, those advantages was ignored by me deliberately. However, even so, my parents tried to let me feel the warmness of an intact family. I often feel lonely just as before. Just say, for example, I could hard to trust others after sitting in the same classroom for even 3 months or even more. Hard to communicate with strangers because I'm suspecting them whether they will threaten me or not. The world is full of evil and coldness for me that they all come from insecurity. I'm very hopeful to trust and hug it. But my personality tells me you have to give enough attention and caution. But if I keep away from others before I say hello, I will lose the opportunities to meet friends and the people I just met and content for a short time. That is to say, I do not have ability to get a large circle of acquaintances and much friends. But actually, that's the base skills after going into the society. Everybody knows what I mean. In the past few years, I thought the situation is kind of scarcely that will only happen in an accident, unless I met my friend Mary, who is really lack of the safety. I finally realized that left behind children in the cities actually is common nowadays, resulted from the business of the parents. In formal definition, the left behind children in the cities are minors under the age of 16 who live in the city's town charms with non-agricultural household restoration and physically or mentally left behind with their parents for 6 months, even more, result from the growing under the background of the cross-generation education. They often beg for more accompany, not only the physical but also the mental aspect of the care. The same thing happened to Mary. She had the same insecurity on loneliness. She likes to follow me, attaches me tightly with he's afraid to me to leave. The things that is important, she has no consciousness to all these actions. That is the fear comes from her deep heart, so she doesn't realize herself. She feels uncertainty to my attitude, becoming nervous when I didn't participate with her. In the research, actually, almost half of the urban left behind children will feel uncertainty and imagine others regardless. But the figures show more things that I told you recently. They are like a small part to show how horrible the phenomenon is. According to the research of the 50 children, 1/3 of them are left behind children. In these left behind children, 50% of them was lack of confidence and self-bias. They feel self-useless and depression, long period. 20% of them were scared to face the strangers as well as lacking the friends in school. Half of them will choose to deal with the problems themselves because unknowing of the searching for help. Most of the best impacts happen according to the scares of family ties. They are full of doubt when glancing at this world. They do not have the people who completely trust to pour out. They get none of encouragement or appreciation with their traveling with tests. Feeling of the helplessness, sense of abandonment are present, non-realized in their daily life because they do not have communication to their families for such a long time, so they may not have trouble during the physical life. They suffer a lot from the mental disorders such as closed heart, emotional indifference, lack of security, poor psychological capacity to bear, do not fit in the surroundings, low self-esteem, depression, and cynical. I'm feeling all things to not just to condemn the parents who really sacrifice for the entire family, but just to request, even pray for one thing, your time for accompany. Time is the most important and only important thing that children appear for. All parents have to just squeeze time during the work and say hello through the phones or small talk when you're waiting for your children, waiting for your times of playing. I've seen a man was full of happiness when he videoed with phone in the between the break and changing the flights. His little baby was in the other side and asking him if he could come back earlier. The sadness he hid it successfully, but gave a big smile, promise. Even a slight change will constantly more promise and the relationship. Thus, I was appealing again, less time for yourself, but more time for a child. Thank you very much.